Hello, everyone. I've been reading from a great book called Spiritual Talks. Probably most of you have heard of it. It's just a collection of some of the teachings and essays from some of the direct disciples of Sri Ramakrishna. And this one in particular was by Swami Premananda. Just for fun, here's a picture of him. You can see him. He was one of the direct disciples, and Ramakrishna just lived around the turn of the century, the 1800s. And uh, anyway, Sri Premananda was telling the story. He says he was talking about a man named Kedarnath Chatterjee in India. He says formerly Kedarnath used to live at Lahore and was a Brahmo. Brahmo was a Hindu, but there was a movement. Uh, Really, in my opinion, which isn't much, but the way I kind of see it, the Brahmo Samaj was sort of a westernization, Christianization of Hinduism, believing only in the formless God, and they would congregate and have weekly lectures and singing very much like church. That's probably just because of my Western perspective, but anyway, that's how I've seen them. So this Kedarnath was a member of that movement in India, and it says that he had a deep love for God. One day the thought of not having realized God so pained him that he went to jump from the top of a hill to kill himself. Just a completely different level there of faith, a completely different level, and inspiring and quite well awe-inspiring. Not that killing ourselves is really a good option. That kind of limits your future, but certainly to have that kind of desire to know God, to know the truth, to know the nature of the reality of the life that you're living, it's quite striking. And so he goes up on this hill and he's going to kill himself. And a cowherd boy is out there tending his cows, and he sees this man walking up to the top of this cliff, and he says to him, "What are you doing?" And thus obstructed, he eagerly asks the boy, "Shall I realize God?" The boy said to him, "Surely you will." Kedar took this assurance as from God himself and returned to Bengal, went home. So a lot of things there. One, just taking the word of a stranger is coming from God really shows his level of faith and really demonstrates what I've really tried to strive for in life, and that is to see life as a dialogue with the divine, with the beloved. That everything is to be learned from, everything is a manifestation of God in love, and that I'm in search of that perspective so that I can see the love in all things, even the most heinous things. So he goes on to say here something quite beautiful. The Swami continues talking, and he goes, "O Mother, if I but die with your holy name on my lips, then you must save this helpless child of yours. I don't care if I have killed a sacred cow or a holy Brahmin or even a child in its mother's womb." So he's quite, again, going out to the extremes there. But you see his faith in the mother, in God. He's like, if I just can have your name on my lips when I die, that'll be it. That's all I need. And he goes on later to make quite a few points here that really interested me. That just kind of set the stage at the level of the intensity of longing for God that we're talking about. A lot of people won't like that. There's fanaticism in it, but there's not fanaticism in it because it's not a particularization. It's not my form over your form, my form and let everything else go away. This is a love for life, a love for knowledge, a love for the divine. And it consumed him, much like an actor is consumed with his craft, like a singer is consumed with his art, or a great artist is consumed with his art. This is a spiritual man consumed with his longing for the divine, for the beloved. He says, in spite of all of these sins, and he listed some real jaw droppers there. He says, in spite of these, I know that if I die with your name on my holy lips, that I can merge into you, that I can know you, I can know the oneness of things. But then Premananda makes the note that we've all been waiting for here. He says, but you must not infer from this that you are to sin now and then take the name of mother at the moment of death, right? Obviously, because that's the first thought. Oh, if I get saved just by having God's name on my lips at the time of death, I'll just live my life the way I want, and then when I die, I'll just say, oh God, and be saved. But he says here a very good point. He says, unless you repeat her name even from now with great faith and strength of mind, you will not even remember her at the moment of death. So part of our practice here, if you don't have God in the center of your heart, at the time of death, everything else is going to be on your mind. All the attachments that you've had, all the things, the objects and peoples that you've loved in life, those will be the things that crowd out the thoughts of your mind, the things that you miss. God will be a subtext, not even thought about. So that's why the intensity of practice is so important, to know that at the kernel, at the heart of our hearts is love. Established in the shrine of the heart is the beloved. Because only then, in an extreme situation like at the moment of death, will you turn to the beloved? Will you think of God? He says the essence of Sri Ramakrishna's teaching is that one should give up all pride and egotism. Now that's quite a challenge, but it is the goal of all religions, is to break out that ego. What is that ego? What is egotism? Egotism is that separation from God, that desire, no, I'm going to do it my own way. No, me. America first is a great example of egotism. Not having the heart of a servant, not having the heart of a giver and someone who's compassionate, but being self-centered. We know what that is. Egotism is drawing that line. No, this is mine and that is other. It either belongs to others or belongs to God or whatever, but this space is mine. When I talked about in earlier videos about our goal is to be a whole through which God can be seen, that's exactly what that is. It's that complete effacement of ego, that complete overcoming of the ideas of me and mine. To see that oneness, that's what it is to see oneness in the real way, not in a theoretical or philosophical way, but to know that oneness is to have no self, but only love manifesting from your nature. A little meditation is no good. God cannot be realized through such lukewarm moods. We see that in Christianity too, in Revelation when John is receiving the vision, God says, because you are lukewarm, I will spit you out. I would that you were either hot or cold. It's having that whole heart, being sincere. It's having that integrity of truth inside, that what you're saying, what you're doing, and what you're thinking are one. It's that. And that thinking is spontaneous from the source of your being, from the divinity that's within you, from that love of God, from that intelligence of God, from your very existence. One must yearn deeply, become restless. Just as the Lord has covered us with his Maya is what we see. It's our definition of our own personal definition of the world, because what we're seeing is God. There's one without a second. Just like in a dream, what you're seeing is a dream, regardless of what the plot is, regardless of what all the folks and characters in the dream are. All you're seeing is a dream. And so this is very similar in waking life for us. All we're seeing is the divine. Anything else that we call it is our own personal Maya. It's the way that we've had to arrange the world to maintain our ego, to keep that sense of me separate from God. So the whole world aligns that way. The dream takes on its life and takes on its plot and takes on its meaning for us based on that. So he says God himself is also breaking the creations of Maya. He says a man once went to a garden with several sons. The sons played out all around the garden. Some went and picked flowers, some went and picked green coconuts, one went to fish in the pond, and when it was evening the man called all of his sons. All of them came except the one who was fishing. The father sent for him again and again, but he wouldn't come. He was so deeply absorbed in catching fish. When it was quite dark, the father himself went and broke the fishing rod to pieces and dragged the boy to the carriage. Thus the Lord comes from time to time to shatter our playthings and to drag us to him, to bring us home. So that's the extreme case. As obstinate as you may be, as unspiritual as you may be, God will at some point have to come and get you if you don't come of your own accord. And how does he do that? He'll shatter your playthings. He'll take the things out of your life that are distracting you. And I've taken that view quite to heart in regards to our current situation with this quarantine thing. God has taken away our playthings for a while. And what's happening? We're starting to realize how special our friends are. We're starting to realize how special our families are. We're starting to get that alone time to begin to digest some of life, to begin to contemplate some of life, instead of just being strung along from one constant diversion to another, one distraction to the next, in an endless cycle of pleasure and enjoyment. It's taking some discipline. So it's really a gift of God that you have this time in isolation to be by yourself. We saw yesterday that one of the best ways for realizing God is to occasionally go into solitude. Leave your cell phone aside, leave your iPad on the side, leave everything away, go away from family, away from friends, and spend a weekend in nature thinking of God, plumbing the depths of your existence. I'm not, of course by now perhaps again, when I talk about God, I'm not talking about that classical idea of this thing externally that's separate and apart from us, some guy on the ceiling of a chapel reaching. That's all mythological and a metaphor for the divine. The divine is all things. In a sense, each one of us is that divinity. We each are a manifestation of God, really only differing in levels of power in that manifestation. So he's saying here, long for God. Take that time to reach out, to touch the divine in yourself, to go inward. I said reach out, and really immediately I was thinking, no. Reach in, go inward. Find that inner peace. Within each of us is the Garden of Eden, in a sense. Within each of us is that tranquility, that peace, that union, that equanimity of spirit based on love. Go in and find it. See who you are and what you are, and then you will know how to live. Of your own accord. You won't have to have a book to tell you. You won't have to feel guilty about some list of rules. If you but touch once that beautiful spirit of the divine that is your very nature, you will by that nature do the right thing. You will in fact become perfect as your Father in heaven is perfect.